Okay, welcome to today's video. We're going to talk about how to actually write the equation given the answers. So in this case, we're doing just a reverse of what we've been doing with finding the zeros. This time the zeros were given. You have to go back in and find the equation. Now, for the most part, it's just going to be multiplication of polynomials. It's not going to be anything difficult, but there are a few things that you need to remember. So we are going to go ahead and get started on here. Now, if you'll remember, let's just give you an example. If you had, you factored, let's say, and you got this as your factors, it was equal to 0. Remember, the first thing that you had to do was set each one of those equal to 0 and then solve. Okay? So x equals 2. X equals a negative 1. Now, and then you would say maybe x equals 2 and negative 1. Well, the thing is that you've now been given this. We're just going to go completely in that direction, opposite direction. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is set each one of these equal to x. Okay? The next thing that we're going to need to do is move it over and set it equal to 0. Okay, and if you can do that in your head, I'm okay with that. Okay, and then our next step is, again, now we're going to take our factors and multiply them together. Okay, and now you just got to multiply them all the way out. Okay, so that is your final step, is just to now multiply. So we're going to go ahead and FOIL. Now what I would do is do the first two. Don't try to get crazy here. Go ahead and multiply your first two first. Outside, inside, last. And then go ahead and combine. And now we've got a trinomial times a binomial. If you want to do the box method, I'm okay with that, whatever method you want to do. So this is going to give me x cubed minus 4x squared minus x squared plus 4x minus 2x plus 8. Okay, double check my math, make sure I did that right. Okay, and then we're just going to combine our like terms. So what's that? Minus 5x squared plus 2x plus 8. And there's your final answer. Okay? And you could always set it as f of x equals if you wanted to. Not necessary, but you could definitely do that. Okay. So let's do another one. Now, here's the key on number 2. Is number 2, and this is where you have to be very careful, they gave you 1 plus the square root of 5. And hopefully you remember that anytime we do a problem, whether it's a quadratic formula, we're solving an x squared, it's always plus or minus the radical. And so really you actually have an extra 0 that they didn't give you. So this is how they try to make it difficult, is they don't give it you both of them. What I would suggest you do, again, be careful on some of the work here. So let me show you this one. These become the ones that kids tend to have the most difficulty with. And part of it is because of the fact that when they try to move this around, they'll lose a sign or so. So just a suggestion, when you move this, you might want to, you can move it all if you want, okay? You could also leave it with the radical piece of it together, but let me just say, this is the way I think that it's the easiest I've noticed over the years for kids to do. So that's how I'm going to suggest you do it. Now, when you start in on this one, though, I would start over here because, again, remember our conjugates. This should be easier to work with than the other one. I'm going to go ahead and set this one up as a box because I think since it is a 3 by 3, it might be easier in the box. Probably didn't make my box big enough. X minus 1 minus the square root of 5. And x minus 1 plus the square root of 5. Okay, let me pull a different color here. Okay, so we're going to get x squared minus x square root of 5. Okay, I'm just multiplying. Minus x plus 1 plus square root of 5. I have x square root of 5 minus the square root of 5, and then minus, and the square root of 5 times the square root of 5 is 5. Now what you should see happen here, guys, is in this case, and in all cases, so watch it, this should cancel. Okay, so you're going to end up with no radicals when you're done. And then this negative square root of 5 and this positive square root of 5. Those are all going to cancel. Okay, so when I get my final answer, I have x squared minus, in that case, that is 2x, and then minus, and the 1 and the negative 5, minus 4. Okay, and there would be my answer. Whoops, for that piece of it, not for all of it. So I still need to now take that and multiply it by x minus 4. Okay, so again, I would come and do another box. So these are a little long, so it means that you're not going to want to have very many of these. Or a lot of times when we do these, I don't have you multiply them all the way out. You just have to give me this piece right here, okay, correctly. So it is definitely possible that I could just tell you to not multiply it out, to leave it in factored form. And then the rest, like I said, is just your multiplication. So let's see, I've got x cubed, 2x squared, 4x. Hopefully nobody's having trouble with this. 4x squared. 2 times 4 is 8x, and that's a plus, and 16. Okay, so my final answer here would be x cubed minus 6x squared plus 4x plus 16. Again, always double check my work, make sure that I'm right. But that would be an example if I had you multiply the whole thing out given. So this is given where you've given real numbers, this is number 1. You're given complex numbers in number 2 with radicals. And then I'm going to do one more real quick for you, because the third one that I want to do, again, is if it is imaginary numbers. So we're going to do 3 and 3 minus I. So again, remember, imaginaries come in pairs, because again, that imaginary number is always out in front of your typically your radical. So you're going to have a pair, okay, plus or minus I. Again, the same thing when you set this up. I should have set it. I'll go ahead and put that step in. Okay, especially on this one. Maybe not on the first one do you need all the steps, but on the second one, I would say put the steps in, because what happens is it's the signs, okay, on your -3 and your I that kids have trouble with. Okay, so my problem is looks like that. And again, it's definitely possible I could just say stop right there on that. Okay, but I do want to show you what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and go out with this. Again, I'm going to set it up into a box just for organization. So x minus 3 plus I, x minus 3 minus I. Okay, so we've got x squared minus 3x plus xi minus 3x plus 9 minus 3i minus xi plus 3i minus I squared. Okay, now again, just like what I told you before, you've got here a positive 3i and a negative 3i. Those are going to cancel. And you've got the negative xi and the positive xi. Those are going to cancel. So it looks like I'm not going to have any i's left, but I do have an I squared here. But we got to remember, I squared is a -1, so I have a negative -1, or in fact, I have a +1 here. Okay, final answer then for this problem on the box piece of it would be x squared minus 6x, and then I have a +9 and a +1 would be a positive 10. And then I still need to multiply that by x minus 3. Okay? So I'm going to stop there. I think you can handle the rest of it. What I wanted you to see is the box and how the imaginary numbers do cancel out. You're not going to have any imaginary numbers. So you will never have in your final equation an I or a radical. They're all going to cancel out with the way that they give you your problems here. Okay, so that'll finish that up. Again, we're going to be doing more of those in class. Be sure you ask questions if you have any.